You asked for it, we deliver. Ladies and gentlemen, backed by popular demand, it's the Majora T Cast revived. And we are revived with a very special guest, Mr. Spencer of RPG Archive. For archiving all things RPGs, we have none other than the archiver himself. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you hear, go ahead and subscribe to this classy lad before, during, and after the stream. Spencer, I pass it to you.
All three. Wow. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. We're talking about video games and the future and the past. We're doing both somehow. So that's pretty cool. Thanks for shouting out the channel, RPG Archive. We're also obviously on the button mappers, but I'm sure everybody watching this knows who we are from that perspective.
Yeah.
So if you're subscribed to this channel and not the button mappers, I really don't know what you're doing. Like you kind of have. I feel like in like the grand scheme of things, like there's like a big Marvel Cinematic Universe that's just like you, me, and Alex's podcast.
Right.
And like you really can't be subscribed to one without the others. It just doesn't make any sense.
No, but if there was an analogy, I'd say it's like maybe you're Iron Man.
Okay.
Alex is Thor.
Yeah.
I'm Captain America.
Yep.
And the button mappers should be the Avengers. But it's like Ant-Man.
It's true. Yeah, it should be the Avengers, but yeah, it's Paul Rudd.
It's like Quantum Mania, you know?
Yeah.
And we don't want that. We want the Avengers. We want the Avengers back. Subscribe to the button mappers.
Yeah, if you want the Avengers back, subscribe to the button mappers, and they'll come back.
Yeah, we'll just make it work, you know?
Mm-hmm.
If we make as many subscribers as Avengers made dollars, I'm just saying.
Pretty good.
I'm not, I'm not promising anything, but I just want to put that in the ether.
Okay.
How you been, Spence, man?
I've been good. I'm recovering from the flu, so I'll probably be coughing. So I'll try my best to spin and dab or whatever I got to do. But generally, I feel pretty good. I've been to the gym 2 days in a row now, so that's good.
Nice. I'll match your dabs.
Okay. Yeah. I'll try to let you know when they're coming.
Okay.
Be like,
the little signal. The
dab signal. A dab signal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like Batman has his the bat signal. We have the dab signal. There you go. All right. Well, as Spencer alluded to, we are going to talk about games, all things games, video games, past, present, and future, all the tenses. Maybe future, past, future. I don't know. But let's see how far we can go into the video game verse. Spencer, what have you brought to the Majora T Cast today?
Well, technology is exciting, right? So we're moving very, very quickly. And I noticed that we talk about AI in terms of art, and we talk about them now in terms of video. I don't know if you saw the Sora AI stuff. But we don't really talk about them in video games, AI in video games. So I wanted to talk about how we think AI can and will affect video games going forward in this space. But as we start, have you seen the Sora AI videos?
Something to do with Kingdom Hearts?
No, thank God. So in 2023, they released an early demo of what they could do, and it was this really funny video of Will Smith, like eating spaghetti, and it looked like just horrifyingly bad, and everyone was laughing at it. Well, literally 1 year later, they've just released a couple videos. One is just like this old man, just chilling in a coffee shop, and the other is kind of like what you would see like stock footage, where you see a camera flying through the air and it like goes through an Asian town And there's one where it goes through a museum, and they look real. Like they look 100% real, completely generated through AI prompts. So, I mean, in terms of video, they've pretty much eliminated the need for anybody that ever made stock footage. Like that whole industry is like over,
You mean like
like overnight.
drones that would go and like float over like a forest or something because now you can put it into an AI
Right.
prompt and we'll make it. That's cool.
Yes, you can literally just say do a flyover of a forest, and it will look just as good, if not better, than anything that people come up with like a drone. It's completely mind blowing, and and I wanted to see what how far we could take it with video games to see if there's a future in there. Now, there's obviously a lot of different facets that fall into it. For one, I guess in the broadest stroke, do you think AI could make a video game?
Sure.
Yeah.
AI can produce a essay
Hmm.
and half these dumbass teachers would get fooled by it. So, I mean, listen, if you ask AI to come up with the code to create a video game, will it produce code in ChatGPT? I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about this, and maybe somebody's already done it, but I wonder if you could. I mean, we could start with just existing video games, like make Tetris, and see if AI could just make you a version of Tetris. I'd be curious to see how accurate it would be. It'd probably be pretty accurate because I bet you there's already code online that literally tells you how to make Tetris. So I'm sure it could just steal it and then
Sure.
duplicate it. But even then, you could make tweaks to it. Say like I want 8 different, what are they called, dodecahedrons or something, or something like that. Eight, give me 8 different ones instead of however many there are, like 5 or 6 or however many. And then make its own version of it, which would be really really cool.
Like, give me
Um,
Tetris, but with the rules of Puzzle Bobble or something.
yeah, yeah, and I'd be interested if you did throw something at it where it changes the dynamic of a game, if it could still incorporate like rules and the ability to make it fun. Like, because obviously anything could be like just stack these blocks and that's it. That's literally it. But if it can actually make the rules so that you are challenged as a human and maybe you're here to achieve a high score, that's where that would be scary. If it like legitimately knew how to do that. So that would be an interesting use case to not only to see if it could make Tetris, which I'm very confident it could, but if it could then add to it and create its own version of it that still is fun.
So, what are the steps that would be missing in order for it to do that? Because right now it sounds like AI can produce video footage of a prompt that is asked of it. Can it program it so there are inputs for like keystrokes for, human players? I imagine this would probably be easiest to program just directly for a computer with a keyboard and mouse, but possibly an Xbox 360 controller because I feel like
Hmm.
that's a universal kind of thing. All PC games tend to work with the Microsoft controllers.
Yeah. Yeah. That's I would assume that there's like a default like controller hookup modification just based on like Steam, how Steam operates. It'll just recognize your controller and then automatically map it for you. So I would assume that there's something that the AI could steal that would just be the same thing to map a controller. Um, and then yeah, probably PC is the way to go, just because it's a lot more. There's a lot more freedom in it. I would guess that coding for like PS5 or Xbox or even the Switch would have like licensing issues that they would probably block you.
Sure.
I don't know that because obviously, especially the Switch gets a lot of bizarre releases that I'm sure Nintendo has no idea is even there. but but I'm sure they still had to have a license to put it on there.
I just
So
did a Google search, has AI programmed a video game, and the following came up. This is from frontier.com. The AI invented a 3D open world RPG game called The Amuletum Amoris.
hmm.
And let me see if I can't get a date for it.
Yeah, while you're looking for that, like that would be the next question is to can we build a game, which I'm confident you could.
Sure.
Now, can you make a world?
That's the
Which I
thing,
think
right?
the world could be built.
Yeah.
I'm very confident on that.
If it can, if a game, or I'm sorry, if AI can produce like a 3D environment for stock footage, then it could easily create the environment or assets for the video game. The question is, can it make the whole game
Right.
start to
Well,
finish?
going back to the environment, I would argue that AI has probably already made pieces of games.
Mm-hmm.
Like modern gaming, I look at like the huge worlds that they've created and I'm like there's no way a programmer just designed that. Like every inch of that. Like they had to have had like an AI tool just like scatter pebbles or scatter, conform the mountain shape and stuff like that. So I would guess the AI has already been in use for video games, which is kind of interesting. And I haven't really heard anybody talk about it, but
Right.
I'm just assuming that there is some kind of automation in there.
So the engine used by this company is called GPT 3.
Okay, ChatGPT.
And okay, so I'll read this full statement. To create a new game complete with images and a storyline, we used GPT-3, an AI language model that generates text using internet data, and Mid-Journey, an AI program that creates images from textual descriptions.
Mm.
Afterwards, they presented AI's creation to a pool of passionate gamers and asked for their thoughts. Okay. I don't know if this game is out yet, but it still looks like it's just used for tools. I think there's another question here about implications, if you're ready to tackle it.
Yeah.
What are the implications of AI being used to, one, develop assets for a game, and two, potentially create a game start to finish?
If Well, okay. If we're talking about the asset portion, that is huge. That is, I mean, like the budgets for video games now for AAA games are like 150 million and up. Like they're insanely high. And a lot of that, I would argue, I mean, I don't know the numbers. I've never made a game and never have anything like that. But I would argue that the amount that is just asset creation is astronomical. Is like the meat of what is so expensive. If you could have an AI build you that, I mean, that's $100 million idea per game. I would assume, and that one thing that I think people have cut corners on in their certain games are the culprits of this, like or certain companies like Ubisoft, is they just reuse assets all the
Sure.
time. It's very clear. So they probably wouldn't have as much savings, but still a lot. Like there'd still be a lot of savings for them in terms of asset creation, which I 100% think that it can do. Um, there's no way that it couldn't do that if it can make things. It's the actual it's the engine that I think would be a struggle. Perhaps it could make the engine and then have a human tweak it.
That's necessary, right? You can't just copy paste the majority of the environments created because people can see and usually tell. Not everybody. Some people will get duped and some people will play kind of a sucky game anyway. But you can tell when something was created procedurally versus by like a creative team.
Mm-hmm.
I think once you start going into some of those companies that do cut corners, you might be able to pass it along. I don't know. What does it take to make a football field in Madden, or
Right.
the crowd jumping up and down? I don't know.
Right. All you got to do is make a crowd, dude.
Sure, who's going to bat
AI.
an eye? I don't know. Maybe, because if it comes off warped or something. There is another question, and this may come after making the game, but will AI replace creative teams?
That's the other $1 million question. The first one is the assets, but I think it can already do. Um, the creative side is hard, and let's be specific with that. Like creative side would be, it would be like making the game fun. Like they design games now where they tell you how to play, and they're really specific about how they want you to interact with the game. And the goal would be to maximize, I guess, dopamine response to make you want to keep playing and progress through the story. So like I guess my brain is still having a hard time figuring out how a computer could do that. I'm not saying it's impossible. And Jesus, if somebody isn't trying to do that literally right now. it's some genius is like, I'll figure it out. But that will be fascinating and equal parts horrifying if the computer can figure out how to make a person have fun. What are your thoughts?
I think from a conceptual framework, it's very hard to say. Because, yes, I love narratives. I love a strong narrative. Give me a good Dragon Quest storyline. You know, we're lovers of the slime here. However, the majority of games don't have great storylines. So if you asked AI to create a bullshit story in the jungle about, like, a warrior, yeah, like, who the fuck cares? Like, I don't think anybody is going to notice, like, the difference. People will still probably get raged or whatever. Oh, you let AI create this. But I don't think that they would be able to necessarily, like, distinguish, like, the overall quality unless it was pointed out to them. By the way, this was made with AI. But then again, look, here's this game right here. This game, and it had a positive reception. What is this? Amuletum Amoris? 95% welcome to play a game with AI assets. Will it replace creative teams? It may change the nature of the job, which is I think is the terrifying part, because the nature of the job will no longer be to, like, get into video game design because you have all these cool creative imaginary, you know, concepts that you've dreamt your whole life about creating a video game. It's going to be more of like a working behind an Excel sheet type of industry. Where you sit and watch hours of playtest time and you tweak the AI, and I guess you can work with like the 1 or 2 creative team, but it's the whole process is warped. It's not the same as it was 20, 30 years ago when these guys are building assets from the ground up. You know, I think of the Pokemon music guy who was sitting there with his synthesizer, synthesizing the individual sounds and like thinking about all that creative stuff. And even we're not in AI yet, like we're kind of like getting into it, but look at like the Pokemon music now, man. We're already coming down in terms of inspiration. The only inspiration now is money. It's a bleak forecast for the video gaming industry.
Well, like, I mean, I'm sure you've heard the music, AI generated music. At this point, they got that on lock. I would be very surprised if people still composed for music going forward in video games. Like, I mean, obviously, like a rock song with a singer
Sure.
and like a meaning to it that's a little bit different. But like, if you just need like a battle theme, oh, dude, like, especially if you want to do it like 8-bit style, like classic style, it's over. Like, there's no need for a human to even touch it, which is again like kind of what you're alluding to. It's a little scary, um, because you're right. Like, an idea no longer really matters because the idea already came from the computer. Like that ship has sailed at this point. It's not
Perhaps,
like
but the
you,
idea came from the person who input the idea into the computer. So there is still a human element.
but, but you know who's gonna do that? Not Mr. Creative.
Sure.
It's gonna be Mr. CEO.
Yes, exactly.
And he's gonna say, okay, what's the most popular genre, like two genres right now? Is like, well, they'll do like open world builder crafting game. Okay, make me an open world crafting game. But this is the story of John who does open world crafting in this world. Okay, build me the world. Bring. Okay, let me get a creative guy to make sure that the dopamine gets hit. Okay, go ahead. Like that's that that's video game creation, and this is like dystopian future.
Give me Lara Croft in a hot tub sequence.
Yeah,
In a big, massive, I don't know, cutthroat, whatever. I get it.
yeah,
The trade off is the games that don't rely so heavily on this style are going to stand out and I think be revered. They'll still be cult games, I feel like, but that's why a game like Cuphead is so stand out to so many gamers.
hmm
I think. I think
yeah.
Cuphead is a great game, and I haven't played it. Hands are up, okay? Don't shoot me. But is it really that creative? Is it really like that mind blowing?
Cuphead.
Yeah.
Visually, yes.
Okay.
I played it. Visually, there's a couple really cool ideas. Obviously, the number one is the graphical style. The gameplay is solid, so for what it's worth. But again, that's just gameplay. The other really cool idea is they have you running around on a map to go from level to level instead of just like sequentially levels. So there's almost like a weird bit of like SNES style exploration in between levels, which is really cute and like really fun. But those kind of ideas like a computer wouldn't think of necessarily because it doesn't exist yet.
Right. And it just feels like the more that AI proliferates, the less kind of standout games we get. I think we should be in an era where every game is a Cuphead equivalent or better. But what you end up getting is a lot of uninspired crap, and then the stuff that actually shows heart is gonna like sell. And I think it comes at the expense of gamers because their standards are lowered.
Yes.
So I think that's like the sad truth of AI for me is that there was the golden era of games. You could point to whichever era you want, like the SNES, the GameCube, the PS2. Those are fine. Those are fine nominations. To say like this is a golden era of games or will be, I just have trouble envisioning it. I don't think it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, at first it's gonna seem really cool, and there's like one cool idea for I think for AI is that everyone's game could theoretically be different, which would be kind of awesome. Where it's like, could you imagine like going down a hallway in Resident Evil, and the pictures on the walls are different for every user that plays? Like they could say like, oh, in my version it had like a dog, and in my version it had like a thing, or maybe the enemies could be like they could do an algorithm where all the enemies add up statistically the same, but they're interspersed throughout the levels differently, so that just a playthrough could be different from one to the other. Just things like that are really, really awesome. But the other side of it, like you were saying, is that in the future, the art of it will essentially be sucked out because they'll be like, why does the main character, like if you played Final Fantasy VII, you're like, why is Cloud the way that he is? And I think it's like Nomura. I think he's did the design. I could be wrong on that, but anyway, they could be like, oh, so he has the big sword because he's like a member of Soldier, and he uses that to like show a lot of strength despite looking pretty slight. So there's a thematic thing going on there. He's got like the sharp hair. His eyes have a reason because of the Mako. They did this whole thing with him. And then in the future, there'll be just like a character that gets made that maybe even looks as vivid as Cloud. And they'll say, why was he like that? And they'll say, because that's what the AI said. We literally didn't move anywhere further than that. There is no tie to the story. There is no tie to anything. It's just because that's what the algorithm decided that day. And that's kind of sad.
You know who this really affects is artists. Anybody going into art, you're screwed. It was already a bad field to go into, and now I'm sorry. Like I feel bad. Like there are a lot of artists out there. I see kids drawing and doodling, and they do really great drawings. It's a great way of expression, but you know, at the end of the day, like how can you get into a field now? I don't know. I just don't. I don't have an answer. It's maybe possible. Mm-hmm. I'd love to hear one.
I mean, it's gonna take. I don't even know. Yeah, I don't even know how you do it because as soon as you you could create something really unique and run with it, but as soon as you create it, it will be taken up by AI. You would have to literally invent new styles like every day, which would just be kind of impossible. It would be.
Can AI replicate Akira Toriyama?
Yes.
You think? Do you think it would do it? Him justice? You do his art justice?
I think asking if AI would do anybody's art justice is kind of an insult. But like, I think it could do it to a point where you wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the AI and then his studio. Obviously, him as a person, we'll get into that later. But his studio that creates stuff in his in his vision, I think it could be on the same level as that.
Time will tell. Time will tell.
Well, that's the thing about anime is that anime is generally pretty simple to replicate. Most cartoons, not just anime, but most cartoons, as long as they have like a locked-in style, an AI could literally take that and scoop it up. Like, remember that Pokemon picture that we pulled out that we made?
Yeah.
In like 5 seconds? That looks like Pokemon.
Like it just looks like a ripoff, though. It doesn't look like inspired by like, you know, or like in the style of it. It literally just looks like a copy paste almost, and it's really high quality, but it is just Ash in a skirt.
Yeah. But that's the point, right? And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying it can replicate it. And you got to think there's people that have dedicated their lives to making that art, you know, to working under Akira Toriyama and learning about why he does what he does and getting all these little fun, like fancy nuances. And then Square Enix is going to go, yeah, but the AI can do it for free. So peace out. Or whoever makes, you know, Dragon Ball, whatever that is. I don't know anything about that, but
you know, there's probably going to be a museum of AI art sometime soon. I wouldn't doubt it. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they may even mask the fact that it's AI and then do a reveal later, and then people will get pissed.
Yeah. Have people pay a bunch of money to walk through this thing, and then it'd be like a month later, be like, by the way, that was all AI.
The biggest gotcha of the century or the decade.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know, I just think about that constantly, like how AI is going to change things. It's going to be the biggest revolution since the internet.
It has
we're already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't think it's got script writing down yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you told AI to write a book, Like, I feel like the book would be trash
Yeah. For now.
for now.
But
When
if
it
you,
gives me
I
a
mean,
good like plot twist or something, like here, I'm here for it. I'll read it. Like, you know, but I don't think it can really do like the more cerebral or cognitive stuff. It's very easy for me to detect if a kid has written AI without plagiarism checking. But the thing is, I know the kid. So I know what they
Right.
sound like. So there's a clear contrast, but sometimes it's very fishy. It's always so vague the way it writes. And it's like it's not clear, concise to the point. It just writes to sound smart.
Yeah. Well,
So
the real ultimate question is, can an AI give you like a dopamine response? And if it learns how to do that, we are fucked. Like as a society, it's over. Because just thinking about like what we already know about how people respond to things like Facebook and Twitter and Fortnite, like just the predatory currency there. And I like Fortnite, but just understanding the currency and the way it gets people to spend money on it. If a computer with cloud-based resources has access to that and could do it on its own, there's honestly, with our current generation, they're fucked. But think about like generations to come that are suddenly raised on a computer just being like, I guess I'll just entertain you because I'm better at it than other people. And then it's literally just them like stuck. It's over.
kids are already wrapped up in this in ways that we're not. Like they
Mhm.
will like type into their phones and talk to Chat GPT. Like not everybody, this is like an aberration, but it's like a tool that they have that they can do. That's not something we did. So the nature of the beast is just different. It's just different. And it's I think it's a lot of things. It is exciting because it's something new. Like I feel like there's been some like there hasn't been a lot new like in the industry. So it's like a new
Yeah.
beast to deal with or see or work with. I don't know. Can we use AI to make thumbnails? Hey, I mean, save me some time. I'll make more videos. You know, is that such a sin?
I've already done it.
There you go. Did it work?
I mean, I had to make my own additions to it, but it made a nice thumbnail that I could then go to Photoshop and like add my own little touches to.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, it makes a pretty picture.
And that's another element is how unethical is AI?
See that? I mean, that is like a whole nother can of worms that we kind of touched on it, like just like skirted over it. But I mean, I guess it's like pointing to where you want society to go, right? Because there's really no laws yet, as far as I'm aware of. And it's like they have no problem putting it into business to get rid of people's jobs. They're already going to put it into media to lose like artist jobs. Okay, so as a society, how far do you want computers taking over what humans do? Is really, I mean, right? That's like the core of it. Is society has to decide that, and I don't even think society as a whole like understands that AI is here. Like they kind of see it and they go, "Oh, that's a cute video of flying over a forest. Looks real, huh? That's funny, huh? Okay. Anyway, I'll go back to my day job." And it's like, okay, but think like the implications of that down the road are anybody that, dedicated their lives to making stock footage, to getting footage of things that they think are pretty, like they no longer have work. do you want to live in a world like that? Times a million, depending on how far you're willing to let the AI go. And it scares me, because like you look at our politicians, and the two people running for president, I think, are like the average age of like 80. so, so I'm really confident that they're gonna have a great like take on AI and how we need to go from here. Like either one of them, it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
It's like either one of them is like when they were a kid, like there's like World War II or something. Why do we have people that are that age like making decisions about AI and technology? They don't know. They don't know. So it's like there's no way our
Well,
society's gonna even come to grips with this shit.
that position's more of a puppet position anyway. You're basically representing your party, and you just kind of like. I mean, yeah, there's like some. I don't want to get too political, but does the age of the puppet matter? I don't know.
Well, how old do you think the people that are pulling the strings are? And by the
It's a
way,
range.
do they have an incentive? Do they have an incentive to promote AI? Which I think all of them probably do.
They all are. Listen, hey, it's a battle for their wallets. So I'm not either way. I'm not. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
What do they call like big? This will be big AI.
Big AI is going to take
big
over.
tech. Big tech is fighting for the wallets. Oh, I'd love to talk stocks. I don't know if I'm allowed to. I'll tell you after the show.
Okay. Do you have NVIDIA?
Yeah.
Good man.
Yeah. I never
Nice.
pulled. So that was a big move. Anyways, that's about it for AI.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that segment. I enjoyed the talk. It's something to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's brighten up the mood a little.
Yeah. Let's go classic. We looked forward, and now we're gonna kind of look back. Did you know that the original Dragon Quest is about to turn almost 40? Home Alone face. I have a slime. And I have a
it's
Squirtle. He's sleeping.
terrifying.
But we wouldn't have Squirtle if we didn't have slime. Dragon Quest is the grand poppy of the console RPG, and me and Spencer of RPG Archive are very big Dragon Quest fans. Subscribe if you like Dragon Quest to both of us and the button mappers, of course. But I want to honor Dragon Quest. I want to honor Akira Toriyama, who recently passed. Honor Koichi Sugiyama, who also passed recently. These guys are pioneers, and it's really just crazy to think about how old this game is and what does that mean. So when I say that Dragon Quest is going to turn 38 in May, how does that make you feel?
I guess it makes me feel a little bit old that
Yeah.
I mean, Dragon Quest 1, it wasn't really my game or anything. But I guess just in terms of the series as a whole, it's hard to think that it's that old. Like any video game series being that old. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, it is weird. I wasn't alive for the first Dragon Quest, but I played it later, and I appreciated it later. But it is like an interesting kind of landmark, in terms of series history of JRPGs, history of video games as a whole. And then I think in thinking about these figures, Akira Toriyama, Koichi Sugiyama, these guys, and even just Dragon Quest, like this is the creation. It is like the original. And it's like, I think of it as like the end of an era when guys like that pass.
Yeah. Yeah, that was last week that he passed away?
Thursday or Friday, maybe?
I think it was March 1st, and it didn't get announced that he died until like the 8th.
Oh wow.
But
Well,
he
we found
actually
out
died
last
like
week.
right. Okay, yeah, yeah. God, what a big hit. That's crazy. Like, I'm not the biggest fan of him, but I mean, I am a fan of Chrono Trigger and Dragon Quest, and that alone is so big. Like even like the other half of the people, well, probably more than half. I bet you it's like 2/3 if you add on like all the Dragon Ball people. Um, what a huge series! Like when I, especially in the '90s, when I thought of anime, that was it for me. I didn't really know much more other than that Dragon Ball stuff. Like it might as well have been like how adults used to call like video games Nintendo. It may as well have been that. It was just like anime was Dragon Ball for me because I just didn't know anything about it. So it was huge, Dragon Ball Z specifically. And it's like thinking about how he's gone. And I mean he left the Bird Studios so they can still keep going. And that legacy will just continue. But it is really like an end of an era with him out.
This game is like if I was to use one word, I have one in mind. What is one word you would use to describe Dragon Quest 1?
I was thinking about that. Um Test. I would say test.
Really? Okay. Why do you say test?
It's I think it's a lot of people say it's like the blueprint for JRPGs. I don't know if I would call it that. I think I would call it like a test, but like if I can use more than one word, I would say it's just like a lot of ideas and seeing how they translate into a home console experience. Because if you look at like there's things about the game design of Dragon Quest 1, Dragon Warrior, whatever you want to call it, where it's like they're not used anymore. Like they were used there and we're like, "Oh, no." let's let's not do that one anymore. Um like for example, I remember distinctly playing Dragon Quest 1 and you would go into a dungeon and it's especially early. I think there might have been a spell later that helped with this. But you would actually have to bring in a torch to just so you can see. And they don't really do that in traditional JRPGs anymore. They've eliminated a lot. In fact, I would argue that some of those ideas are Western ideas. And obviously it's inspired by Western RPGs. So you can see where they get that from. But in future, like just JRPGs in general, they don't usually add outside complications to dungeons. Like it's usually just, you and your stats going through a dungeon. The idea of like having to bring like a torch to help you traverse the dungeon is weird. If you think about like modern RPGs, the only ones I can think of that may have taken some of that and run with it in their own direction are like Etrian Odyssey has its own stats that are based on dungeon exploration, which is I love, by the way. I think that's really cool. I think it makes you rethink your stats. Like do I need to be entirely focused on offense or but like what about farming? Like when you get to like a farming section, maybe some points into that might be good. Or games like Elden Ring, that has advantages if you bring a torch in to a dungeon. Whether there's a couple different advantages there. And so some people took it, but I think it as a whole in general, there's a lot of ideas that are in Dragon Quest 1 that aren't really capitalized on. I don't think until 3 they really got the thing down, and that's the one that I think is the more copied
Hmm.
in a lot of ways. What word would you use?
Iconic.
Iconic. Why do you say iconic?
I feel like you can trace. I know you said it's referred to as a blueprint, and you don't really see it that way, but I still think you can trace origins back to this game for so many other
Mm-hmm.
games. And this is a weird one because it's not the first JRPG, but when I think of the first JRPG, this is it. This is the first JRPG to me. There were other ones in Japan prior on irrelevant systems, things I can't even
Mm-hmm.
name. And they had significant impact, and that's great. In Japan, this one is a global icon. This is like the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. That
Right.
movie was like I guess it was a Chinese movie, but you had people acting from all different parts of China with different dialects that really didn't understand what they were like the other was saying. So when Chinese people
Mm.
watch that movie, they're like, "What the hell are they saying?" But when we watched in the States, we're like, "Holy shit, that's awesome!" And it like seems really cool and fantastical. And it was a
Yeah.
global product. This game brought RPGs worldwide, and the numbers may not suggest it, but I feel like when you talk to a gamer, they know Dragon Quest. They respect Dragon Quest. And this one,
Mm-hmm.
while they may not all have played it, they've all played a variant of it. They've all gone through a dungeon. They've all used Flash in a Pokemon game. There's your derivative of the torch. So much stuff feels derivative. And while things have been improved since this first game, not having to press a stairs icon every time you step on stairs, or bring a
Mm-hmm.
torch into a dungeon, or having more than one party member, it all takes roots in this game to me.
Yeah, I don't, it's like, yeah, when I play this game, I feel like it has one foot in old school sensibilities, especially at the time. Old school for the time. It's like what, 85 or 86 or something. Um and then one foot in the future, which is bizarre. It's just so like jarring thinking about how they made this game, and there's like, I got to save the princess from a dragon. I mean, you don't really have to. Like they just didn't put a thing where you had to. It just kind of, it happens naturally, but it can certainly be avoided. And I think that's funny. And then but then you see like slimes, and you see things that would be carried on into the future that you're like, oh, I recognize that. That's crazy. Um, so yeah, I can see what you mean. There's certainly things that did last forever from Dragon Quest. I don't want to say that it's entirely derivative, but it's like it is weird to me seeing the mismatch of ideas that did not carry over.
I got a few other questions in the chat, but I can't see them right now. Can you go through them?
Uh, I'm going to start with number 3, I think. How do you feel about the juxtaposition between Dragon Warrior and JRPGs today?
Yeah, we sort of went into it. To me, like, if we're talking about like from Dragon Warrior to now, like the whole thing is just completely different. But at the same time, the best JRPGs that I've played, I think, still harken back to like a old school style. Like I still think of that Etrian Odyssey. I still think of mapping out your adventure. I don't need a huge elaborate story, although it's nice, when I play it. Like Persona 5 handles it well. I don't think it's crass. Um,
One thing that may have just been a limitation of Dragon Quest 1, but I wholeheartedly appreciate is when the game will shut the hell up and let me play it. And it's like the older I get, the more I'm like, yeah, why am I playing this bullshit? Like, God, I keep coming back to Elden Ring because it's just like, here you go play. It's like not almost no talking throughout the entire game. And Etrian Odyssey fits that for me too, where it's just like, I don't want to hear anybody speak. I just want the meat of the game. And the original Dragon Warriors were like that as well. I mean, obviously the first one more than any of them. It's just the game is so spread out. There's a limited amount of towns. So it's a lot of adventuring on your own. And it's just meat. I think about it like that, like meat. Delicious protein I can just tear through. As opposed to, God, man, you sit through like what, Soul Hackers 2 or something. I remember playing that, and it's just like talking. It's like,
Well, this is
sugar.
that dopamine rush that you were talking about. Every battle is significant because you need that gold. You need that XP. You can't win without it.
Yeah.
If AI can figure this out, it's done. 'Cause this is like,
What's that?
if AI can figure this out, like this formula, it's done. Tell AI to make Dragon
It could easily
Warrior,
figure out.
like 1.
I think it could do that.
Probably. But this is
But it would just be copying Dragon Warrior 1.
well, yeah, I mean, obviously a little more complicated than that, but it's just so satisfying, this game. And I think that's where the most successful RPGs that I play like are as well. I'll have some choice words for 11 when we get to it. But I could come back and play this and feel like I've progressed any day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I miss days. I miss the days where, and it's like Final Fantasy VII, I think, ruined it. Maybe 6 did. But I miss the days where an RPG could just be you taking actions and exploring caves. Like, and that's like Pokemon too, the first one. And then even even Gold. Sure. A little bit of that. But you can feel it drifting away from that. And it's like they want to make RPGs now that are curated. And they're very specific, and the story is very carefully plotted out. And you're just along for the ride. And I hate that. I don't want to be along for the ride. I want to be the ride. And it's like Dragon Quest 1, like you are the ride. You dictate if you're going to go into that cave or not, and maybe you shouldn't because you'll get fucked up. And you you dictate the spells you want to use and yada yada. You transgress that, and I wish that we didn't get so far from that. If anything, Dragon Quest reminds me of that. It's like, man, we got far from the goal on these games, and there's like no going back. I don't know why. The games that do go back do so well. It's baffling to me. Maybe it's because people don't want to take the time to build a great game. So they like hide it behind chunks of dialogue that you have to pretend to care about. I don't know. But it's like, why can't you just let me play the game? And this game is like a staunch reminder of that. Like,
I don't think it's, and I'm sure I could say this better, but I don't think JRPGs were ever meant to truly evolve. Yes, they were meant to get better in some aspects, but the nature of the game didn't need to be anything different than it was. I think there's always this push to what can we do bigger and better in the next game, and then it comes at the expense of the gameplay itself. That happens consistently with the Pokemon games. I guess I'll say a little bit about 11, but I don't really feel that I don't feel the weight of my actions. It's so slow.
Well, the pacing in that game is deplorable, like you just said. But I mean, also part of the problem with that, and it has to do with the pacing, is that it's all on rails. The
Yeah.
game never, even at the, I mean, at the end, it does to an extent, but like realistically, the game never lets you just go and enjoy this world that they created. And it's like in Dragon Quest, I feel like in the original Dragon Quests, one to an extent because it's, I mean, it's all walking, but like two and three, it's like they could not wait to unleash you onto this world that they've created.
Mm.
And it's like I love that feeling of the game just being like, all right, here's a boat, go. Or here's, you know, you've completed this area. There's a mountain with a cave. Who knows where that's gonna lead? We're not even gonna tell you. But just go through and figure it out for yourself. Love that. And it's like you play, I mean, we talk about Dragon Quest 11, but there's any of the modern JRPGs that you play. It's just like after a 15-minute cutscene, go through this mountain, you'll get to the town of Gondogagala, and you'll talk to the king there, and he'll tell you what town to go to next. And it's like, where's the mystery? Where's the suspense? Where's the me just experiencing the world? You just can't let me do it. They won't let you do it anymore.
You know what game, and we're getting out of JRPG territory, but that's okay. There are multiple games that I think have allowed this sense of like rewarded exploration in the same type of way. I used to spend hours going through Oblivion and just discovering new towns and talking to these garbage NPCs and just figuring it out. Because at the end of the day, what are we doing here? After work, you know, we worked all day. Just go suck yourself into a game. I don't want to like be bored to death with details about, you know, who gives a fuck. Like it's very rare for me that works. You know, about individual characters. With Dragon Warrior 1, I mean, you know, are those territories going to be as impressive when you get to them, like in the different corners of the map? Yes, surprisingly. I mean, visually there's not much, but at the same time, it's like, okay, I'm going to fight a goddamn golem here, or I'm going to get this key that can now allow me to go back through all those doors that I saw I didn't know what to do.
Yes.
It's those little details that actually affect the whole experience so much more and make it so rewarding.
Well, that's the funny thing about the human brain is that it, as long as you're enjoying yourself, your brain will make what it wants out of what you see. It's like I remember having a 40-inch TV, and then I upgraded to a 60-inch TV, and now because the house is bigger, we upgraded to a 75-inch TV. I couldn't tell you the difference between any of them. Because your brain just was like, okay, this is what I'm watching now. It's like, okay, it's bigger, it's bigger, but it's still the same thing. And I think it works the same with video games. Like if the meat of the game is solid, then you can go back and play Dragon Warrior 1, and you're going through like an 8-bit looking town. But if the meat is there, then that town is just as lively as a game that came out yesterday that has a lively town. In fact, it could be better if that game sucks. It's like your brain will make you have fun if the meat is there. And that's what's cool about the old Dragon Quest, was that the meat was there to the point that we've played 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, 4 was getting the DS, but still, like we've played those old games, and I don't think we ever even commented like it's so low res. I don't think it even came up. It's just like, oh, this is how it looks, and that's great.
It's
So,
shocking.
that's the beauty of the old JRPGs too.
It's
like
shocking how good it is for being the first. For being the first, it shouldn't be this good. It shouldn't be like it really shows fundamentals in game design that have I wouldn't say
Yeah.
they've disappeared, but it seems like they've become less common.
Yeah, it feels like one of the goals when they made it was how do we make this as playable as possible?
Right.
Because most of the RPGs of the time were like mud based, like trash, like
Mm,
just disaster of games. And it's like the hardcore people can get into them, but like nobody else would ever play them.
sure.
And it's like they let's make this console game for this kid's toy. How do we make it so a child can enjoy these RPGs? And I think if that was the goal, like they nailed it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's cool.
Dude. Yeah. Long live Dragon Quest / Dragon Warrior. Happy freaking birthday.
Yeah.
Early birthday.
Well, it's still probably you said 38. They're almost 38,
Yeah.
so they will be 40. That'll be cool. Midlife crisis. Midlife crisis will be Dragon Quest 12. It's gonna be dark and edgy,
And made by AI
probably.
in the style of Akira Toriyama because nobody else can do it.
Yeah.
Are there any other good questions there or ones worth tackling that we haven't already?
We've touched on it a little bit, but the last one I have here is: do you consider Dragon Quest the first JRPG? Which you kind of already answered.
Do you share the sentiment?
I would say yes. There may have been other RPGs in Japan, but oddly, if you think about it, those would just be RPGs. And so if in here, like in America, it was a JRPG. So it's really the first one. Maybe there's others. I don't know. I'm sure there's one that somebody will point out, but it doesn't count if nobody knows about it. Tree falls in the middle of the forest and nobody hears it. It doesn't make a sound. So
But what about Falcom's E series?
have you played Ease 1?
No.
It's utter garbage. It's like I was seriously gonna play that. I can't remember for what thing we were doing on button mappers. I booted it up. I literally could not get myself to play more than like 5 minutes.
Wow.
It's trash.
Dude, I really want to invite you back to talk about Sega Genesis RPGs. So be ready.
I liked Phantasy Star, and I
Yeah.
like Shining Force 2. Not Shining Force 1, but I like Shining Force 2.
I'll give you a list to like dip your feet into, and you're gonna hate them.
I will.
Yeah, it's gonna be bad, but it'll be fun.
Nice.
There's one for Treasure that I've been dabbling with, but you may want to play Light Crusader.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm playing it, but honestly, I might just pass it to you to see what you say. It's on your Sega Genesis compilation.
Is Lunar on Genesis?
It's
Was
on
that
Sega
Genesis?
CD, I want to say.
Oh, okay. I always wanted to play that.
It's PlayStation as
I
well.
think you can... Yeah, I think they re-released it a couple places.
I thought I'd like Star
Yeah, I don't know.
Ocean, but I don't know. I never really tried that hard.
Star Ocean, what did that come out first on? Wasn't that Super Nintendo?
Maybe, but I think the first one we got was PS1.
Okay. Terry likes it.
He also liked Ease.
Oh, he does? He likes the first Ease?
Pretty sure.
I'd find that hard to believe, but I think the only person I've talked to that really likes it is like Brian.
Bruno likes Ease.
Like the
Okay.
first one?
I don't, probably.
Because like the newer ones are nothing like it. Like they're completely different games.
Yeah, I heard Ease 8 is really good.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay.
Nothing like Ys 1.
It's iconic, Spencer, and it's a test in a different
Shit.
way.
Yeah, it's a real test on your
Of
sanity.
patience.
Yeah. Crystallis is good. Not as good as Liza P, but it was pretty good.
Was Liza P that good?
Yeah, it was good.
Dark Souls good?
It's in the vein. Bloodborne-ish. I still think you should play Bloodborne. I mean, maybe just do Elden Ring first, but Bloodborne, because you were on that Castlevania kick. Bloodborne is like Castlevania's crazy, crazy, like grandkid.
I tried and
But
I failed, and I kind of just got annoyed and gave up.
I think Elden Ring would help
Okay.
if you get the chance to play that, because it's like it takes away all the feeling of being stuck, because it's just completely open world. So if you can't beat a boss, you just leave and go do something else, and then you just come back. Whereas Bloodborne and like a lot of the Souls ones, it's like this is literally the only other place you can go is this boss. So like either beat it or you're just screwed.
Mm-hmm.
So I get the frustration with that. I had a hard time. I could not beat Bloodborne, and then I went to Elden Ring, and then came back, and I had like a whole new appreciation for it. It was great.
Okay. Okay. Something to
Yeah, I think I
about.
probably got stuck at the same place you did on
Probably,
Bloodborne.
yeah. That's like
Was
first boss
was
or
it that
something.
the bridge with the huge monster,
Maybe
the cleric beast? I think it's called.
it looks
Yep.
like some Coliseum or something. Maybe.
I could see that looking like that, but yeah, big huge monster that just tears you apart. Yeah.
Yep. Definitely got tore apart. And finding my way back up there every time, and I was just annoyed. So.
Yeah, that's what makes the Elden Ring one so much better, is that for beginners is that you can just be like, I don't really want to climb that again for now. I'd rather just go do a cave. And so you just be like, nope, I'm going to go over here. And then you come back a little stronger, and then it's like, oh, okay, like I didn't have to grind to get stronger. I just did something fun to get stronger.
Mm-hmm.
And then now I maybe have a better item, or who knows, but yeah, it's great.
It's very bizarre, like my tastes right now. Like, even though I'm saying I like that kind of like instant gratification, I've just been hammering Resident Evils.
I know.
I've
heard all about them.
You sure have. I don't know. It's something like I'm not a horror guy, so, and I don't, calling Resident Evil horror is like kind of a joke, but
What is horror? I mean, I guess you're getting to the point where it's not horror, but it's. I mean, it's generally like the ones you were playing were pretty horror.
yeah, 7 is gonna be freaking scare my pants off. So
Yeah.
I'm actually.
Are
Kind
you
of
really gonna play
excited for
6?
that. I might skip it.
I think you've gotten so far.
I played 1 through
might
5
as well.
at this point.
You might as well speak to it, right?
I mean, if I'm gonna go to 7 anyway, what's the harm in going to 6? There was something about like it being so bad, it would be like good to know. Like, I gotta say that Wesker volcano fight, hot garbage. But I'm glad I played it.
Yeah. I mean, it expands your repertoire.
Mhm.
You're like your lexicon for the world that you appreciate is bolder because of that. And I admire that with you, that you can sit through them like that. I can't really. I have such a hard time doing that. I don't think I could.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you crave new game experiences more, or do you just crave like tried and true?
I'm pretty tried and true. It's hard to get me out of my shell. I mean, that's why I have a channel called RPG Archive. I literally If there's not a lot like stats improving, I don't like what am I doing here? But the button mappers gets me out. It's like 50-50. Sometimes there's hits and sometimes there's misses, but I never thought I'd play Resident Evil, to be honest. And I liked everyone I played.
I think I just like I tend to go tried and true. Like I prefer that, but then like it gets a little stale. Like I think just playing so many Pokemons back to back. I put Pokemon Black down. I thought I was gonna finish it, and it's just like I've done this. I'm not surprised I stopped there when I was younger too.
That's wild. That's the first one I beat since Gold.
Wow.
Like I tried Ruby Sapphire, it's like ugh. Pearl, I tried that one, like ugh. And then finally Black came out. Maybe it's just where I was at the time in my life. Just I was able to sit and focus on it. But like, yeah, that was the first one I beat.
Hmm. I don't know. I'll give it a try, but maybe next Pokuary, whenever that is.
Yeah.
Probably never. I think Pokuary's dead. I don't think we're ever gonna bring it back.
I think that would be for the best, but I'm a little bit surprised. I think it'll come back in some form or fashion.
Hmm. At some point I have to face the music. Nobody's clamoring for it, and yeah, I don't know. I think it's dead.
Could you imagine doing two Pokuary game talks? Like having to fill that many Pokemon.
See,
things
I'm
in
okay with it.
1 month.
Give me 2 spin-offs. I don't care.
Pokemon spin-offs. I mean, all there is Snap, right?
Snap, Stadium, Mystery Dungeon, some of these puzzle games. What else? Ranger.
Puzzle games. Oh,
It's like some RTS.
those are brutal.
Yeah. You got apps, you got movies, you got,
That's
probably
true.
review like the plushie,
That's true.
The toys, the trading card game. They're gonna have that phone app next year.
What is it?
They're gonna make the trading card game a free to play on your phone, and you get free
there's
packs
money
every
right there.
day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's money. I was wondering why they didn't have anything out for the trading card. Like, why doesn't I think Yu-Gi-Oh has a thing, but it's not monetized the right way. I think they could make so much money off that stuff if they did it right.
I think they will, because Pokemon Go didn't hook me, but this has got me. They sunk.
Really, you're the card guy?
I'm not really, like, I don't collect that many cards, but I think just the ease of it and like the functionality like looks cool. And it looks simple. Like I don't think it's going to take up much space on my phone. I think Pokemon Go looked like a huge endeavor and you had to go walk places and stuff. Like that's not really what I want to get into, a Pokemon game for. So I always looked at Pokemon Go as kind of like an aberration.
Man, I looked at it as like man baby stuff. Like I would see people like my age and they're like, "There's a Squirtle." I'd be like, "Get out of here! Get out of here!"
That's I'm fine on that. Good on them
Man,
for tapping into American stupidity.
Mm-hmm. I wish they would make a good Yu-Gi-Oh one. The problem with Yu-Gi-Oh is that there were so many like expansion sets that just ruined the game. The game is unplayable to me at this point. Like I wish it was just the first like 3 or 4 expansions. I would do that. I'd be all in. But then they like I booted up the Steam one and I was doing really well for a while. And then I played this one game where I put my cards down. Like I put a trap card down and then a defense position monster. The person played a bunch of cards I've never seen before. He had to have played 30 cards. Like you start with 5. And somehow like he was playing cards that would have him draw more cards and draw these cards or something. He beat me. Like I literally didn't have a chance to react to anything he was doing. It was just like he'd play a card and then it would do like 1,000 damage to me somehow. And then it would help him draw a card. He'd summon a monster. He was able to summon another monster and sacrifice it for this and do all this shit. And I was like, I'm just like watching you play. And then he beat me 1,000 life or 8,000 life points in one turn.
Wow.
And of which I could do nothing about. It was
Broken.
that game is so dead. I don't know how you still keep that up.
And that's another thing is like, I think once you get to a point where it's like you have 1,000 Pokemon or you have like hundreds of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, there will be exploits, and it kind of makes the thing not fun.
Yeah.
Especially when the whole point is like competitive play. Nowadays, anyway.
Because then you get a meta, and you just have to follow the meta, which is the antithesis of fun. Which is why like games like League of Legends will just patch every 2 weeks or whatever, so they can change the meta, so you can at least like rotate and try to learn new strategies and stuff. But like with a card game, you can't change the rules to a card game. Like that's it.
It's terrible. Yeah. I don't know.
Right.
But people are passionate. If you're willing to go that far, go for it. Yu-Gi-Oh!
I think the safest one is Magic. That one's been going on forever, and I think people have their own strategies that still work.
I don't even.
Good for them.
That.
I learned how to play it, but I don't. I haven't played it. I don't think I've ever played it seriously, but I certainly haven't played it in forever.
Same.
But that's got to have like 5 billion cards now.
Oh my god! And the fun of that to me was the art. It was the cards are pretty cool.
Yeah, good art. Can't wait to see AI replace that.
AI magic. They'll take the magic out of it. It's just the gathering.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's just gather around, watch the AI.
Yeah. AI the gathering. Cool. Well, on that note, I'm going to conclude the podcast here. But before I do, I like to give the final word to the guest, Spencer of RPG Archive. It has been a pleasure having you. The final word goes to you.
Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun. And Akira Toriyama, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for all your contributions. And Dragon Quest, thank you for being Dragon Quest. And hopefully there's another 40 years in the future. Peace out.